let's get to a real issue, okay? Not election integrity, but a real issue that gets to the core of our national crises. And that, of course, is the racism of eco-anxiety.
Eco-anxiety is an environmental justice issue that disproportionately impacts Black youth. Let's talk about it. According to the American Psychological Association, eco-anxiety is defined as a chronic fear of environmental doom, and that may include feelings of worry, guilt, shame, despair, and even hope. However, just as the climate crisis doesn't impact people and communities the same, neither does eco-anxiety. When we fully understand the relationship between social determinants of mental health and climate change, we begin to understand that the nature of a person's eco-anxiety is also informed by systemic factors that exacerbate the ways that it's felt and addressed. Communities of color, and particularly Black ones, are more vulnerable than white ones to sea level rise, wildfire, and heat waves linked to climate change. Black youth are more likely to reside in hotter regions that trap and radiate heat, have the highest asthma rates in the country, and are increasingly more likely to experience mental health illness, all while having fewer avenues to really access often life-saving resources.
I agree with one thing here, which is that Black people probably are more susceptible to eco-anxiety. And I think eco-anxiety is a real thing. I do think people are neurotic for all sorts of reasons and about all sorts of things, one of which can be that the sun monster is going to kill us all. So sure, eco-anxiety is real. Boogeyman anxiety is real. All sorts of anxieties are real. Even if the thing that the people are fearing is not real or not a threat, the anxiety itself is real. And Black people probably are more susceptible to it because they have been more propagandized. There has been a more targeted effort to gin up all of these sorts of irrational fears in Black people for the last 60, 70 years. So sure, maybe it is the case. It's at least possible that that's the case. I'm not convinced that most Black people are sitting around quaking in their boots about the sun monster. Liberal whites are doing that, but I'm skeptical that Black people are. But in principle, okay, maybe they could be convinced that the sun monster is racist too. Okay, they've been told that everything's racist, so maybe that's possible. What is this really about? All of the eco-anxiety and the racist eco-anxiety even. People recognize that there is something wrong in the world. That's what it's about. People recognize that there is something wrong in the world, and the world is kind of broken, and there's injustice. And the mistake that this woman is making, and that the hypothetical Black people who fear the racist sun monster are making, and that all of the environmental alarmists and hysterics are making, is they think that the problem is external rather than internal. It's internal. That's where the brokenness comes from. The big threat to the world is not the sun. The sun's actually pretty good. You know, it allows our vegetation to grow. It feeds us. It warms us. The sun's okay in my book. The threat to the world is people. And it's not even just physically the people. It's the interior of people. It's the heart and the soul and the spiritual brokenness. The call is coming from inside the house. That's the problem. But these people don't want to face the problems. They don't want to look at the man in the mirror and ask him to change his ways. So they have to blame it on everyone else. They have to blame it on the other races. They have to blame it on the boogeyman race, which is the white people. They have to blame it on not even other races, not even other species, but other celestial entities. We've got to blame it on the sun. We've got to blame it on the greenhouse gases. We've got to blame the brokenness of this world on something that is physical and external because we can't acknowledge that the problem is spiritual and internal. That's a lot scarier. The House is going to ban TikTok. Okay, we say, hey, members of Congress, it'd be great if you could fix this economy. Hey, members of Congress, it'd be great if you could seal up that border and stop the major invasion, historic invasion of the United States. Hey, members of Congress, it'd be good if you could stop the mass poisoning of Americans that is occurring because of China and the cartels that control the border. And you know what the House of Representatives says? They say, yeah, best we can do is ban TikTok. Sorry, we can't fix any of that other stuff. We actually can't because, the Democrats control the Senate and and the presidency and the bureaucracy, of course. But but we can ban TikTok. So is that good? Does that work for you guys? Does not excite me. The House passed this legislation that would ban TikTok in the US if the China-based owner does not sell its stake in TikTok within a year. And this passed overwhelmingly. It was a 360 to 58 vote. Not 360 to 358. It was 360 to 58. Overwhelming passage of this bill. Now it goes to the Senate, and they're going to keep negotiating and trying to work this thing out. I have no problem in principle with banning a social media app. As you know, I'm not exactly the most libertarian guy in the world. I think that we have a political right to ban these kinds of things for all sorts of reasons. Not for any reason, but for all sorts of reasons. So in principle, I got no problem with it. But in practice, I do. I'm not in favor of banning TikTok. Why? Because a question you got to ask yourself when bills pass is, who stands to benefit from this? Who stands to benefit? Why are you getting such an overwhelming bipartisan majority of people who want to ban this? Why are so many Democrats on board with banning TikTok? Is it because all of a sudden they hate the Chi-Coms or something like that? All of a sudden they're concerned with obscene material being presented to our kids? Democrats are all in favor of presenting obscene material to our kids. Democrats hold parades for months at a time to present obscene material to our kids. So it's not that. They're afraid of appeals to the prurient interest that you see on TikTok. They're afraid. No. They're afraid that the Chinese communists are going to propagandize us with far-left material. The libs are already trying to propagandize us with far-left material. Who stands to benefit from this? Mark Zuckerberg, who's a huge lib, who may have been the reason that Democrats took the 2020 election through his $400 million of funding, specifically of organizations that would determine where to place ballot drop boxes. We're talking about real nuts and bolts, significant maneuvers in the 2020 race. Mark Zuckerberg benefits because he's the competitor to TikTok. He runs Instagram and Facebook. And Joe Biden benefits. Joe Biden is being raked across the coals on TikTok right now, in no small part because the Gaza war has generated a lot of interest, especially among young people, especially on social media platforms, especially on TikTok. And Biden is being blamed for the mishandling of that war in the youth vote popular consciousness. So it's real convenient for the Democrats right now that they're going to pass this law, and the Republicans are going to be all for it because we think it's going to attack those darn Chi-Coms, those Reds over there in China. But really, the only people who are going to benefit, the only people who are going to get hurt probably is Republicans, and the only people who are really going to benefit are Joe Biden and Joe Biden's and the Democrats' enforcement arm in the so-called private industry, which is largely Facebook. Maybe Google a little bit, but it's Facebook and Instagram. I don't really see, why are we doing that? I want there to be more competitors to Facebook and Instagram because Facebook bragged about throwing the 2020 election to the Democrats. And they censor us. And sure, I don't like the Chinese communists coming in and censoring us. And I had my TikTok account banned within 3 seconds of starting it, just about. And TikTok does have all sorts of disgusting material on it. But the same is true of Facebook. Facebook censors us, bans us, and has all sorts of awful material on it. So why are we going to give a huge advantage to Facebook and the Democrats and Joe Biden? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Hey there. Did you like that clip? I hope you did. If you want more of them, you got to ring that bell and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.